Hello and welcome to the Rambler podcast. My name is Jimmy Smith and I am your host. I am a proud member of the Cathedral Prep class of 2011 and I work here in our advancement office. On this episode of the podcast, we have another installment of our info session series, and today we are going to be highlighting the Haggerty Family Event Center. Before we jump into this episode of the podcast with our guest, let me share with you a little bit about some of the history and stats behind the Event Center. The Event Center is on the site of the former EMI Foundry, which closed in June of 2001. And then we, Cathedral Prep, bought the 11 acres for the construction of what was originally known as the Cathedral Prep Event Center in September of 2007. The inaugural football game was played on September 10th, 2010, which happened to be my senior year, by the way, and Cathedral Prep defeated the Central Tech Falcons 55-9. In 2018, the Event Center was renamed the Haggerty Family Event Center by an anonymous donor in recognition of the impact of the Haggerty family has had at Cathedral Prep. Key members of the family included Monsignor John Haggerty, prep class of 1947, who taught at the school from 1955 to 1960 and was the headmaster from 1984 to 1989. And I actually had the honor to know Monsignor Haggerty when he actually taught at Blessed Sacrament. I took him for Latin when I was in grade school there. And we also recognize the Haggerty family for Chris Haggerty, prep class of 1975, who led the school's advancement department for 17 years. And we also recognize Adriana Haggerty, who taught many years at Villa Maria Academy. And I think what's one of the coolest things about the Event Center is when you go there today, just understanding that every dollar used to purchase the land and build the Event Center came by the contributions made by our generous donors. Pretty cool. Key aspects of Dollinger Field. It was named after Monsignor John Dollinger, who served as the headmaster of Cathedral Prep from 1972 to 1984. It is a full athletic field with artificial turf. And actually, we just had new turf put on a couple seasons ago and has stadium seating for 2,000 people. It includes an 8-lane running track with designated high jump, long jump, and pole vault areas, and features a brand new digital scoreboard that we just installed this past August with a state-of-the-art upgraded sound system. Key aspects of the Joanne Mullen Gymnasium. It was named in honor and memory of longtime Cathedral Prep and Villa Maria Academy faculty member and administrator, Mrs. Joanne Mullen, who was also a Villa class of 1957. It features a 14,550 square foot court with it is a one collegiate size court running north and south, and then we have two collegiate size courts running east and west, and we have a drop down divider wall for if we're playing tournaments or practices or multiple games within the gymnasium. It has a seating capacity of 1,600 and approximately 5,000 square feet of a balcony that includes a running track. This gymnasium also features a state-of-the-art digital scoreboard and sound system. Key aspects of the David M. Hallman III Aquatic Center. It was named in honor and memory of David M. Hallman III, prep class of 2010, a 3-year letter winner in swimming for prep, and he also went on to continue a swimming career at Denison University. It features a double-deep competition pool, which includes 8 lanes that are 25 yards each, with a 1-meter diving board, and we also have a double shallow warm-up pool, which includes 3 lanes that are 25 yards. The Aquatic Center has a seating capacity of 400 and also includes a state-of-the-art scoreboard and sound system. So, needless to say, we're extremely proud of the Event Center, and we are so thankful for all the many donors who contributed to this facility to make this dream a reality so that we could have an excellent facility here for our athletes at Cathedral Prep and the greater Erie community as well. One thing to note at the Event Center is we are open for public rental, so meaning if you'd want to host a birthday party with the gymnasium or the pool or the field, or use our main concourse area to host a birthday party or a reunion or an alumni event. We're also open for renting out to different organizations for their fundraisers, basketball tournaments, wrestling tournaments, swimming competitions, soccer tournaments, you name it. If our facility can host it, we've probably done it before, to be honest, and it's something that we love to be able to do. So if you are interested in utilizing the event center, renting it out for an event or whatnot, please contact me. My extension at PREP is 2294, or shoot me over an email at jimmy.smith@cathedralprep.com. So on today's podcast, I welcome Mark Jeanneret as a guest. Mark is the Executive Director for the Erie Sports Commission, which they are a great partner of ours, bringing in many various organizations to our facilities to be able to host their events and tournaments. In my role here, I'm responsible for all of the rental groups and organizations that come in to use the facilities, so I work pretty closely with Mark and his team over there at the Sports Commission. On this episode of the podcast, Mark is going to talk to us more about his role at the Erie Sports Commission and what they do. He's going to also talk to us about what makes the Haggerty Family Event Center such an awesome facility for our community to be able to have. So thanks so much for tuning in for this episode of the podcast, as we're going to be talking about the Haggerty Family Event Center. Hello, everyone. My name is Jimmy Smith, and welcome to episode number 43 of the Rambler podcast, where we are passionate about sharing what makes Cathedral Prep the standard of excellence. And on this episode of the podcast, we are thrilled to have Mark Jeanneret as a guest on the podcast, as we have another edition of our info session series, where Mark's going to come on today. We're going to talk about his role as the Executive Director for the Erie Sports Commission, and we're also going to talk about the Haggerty Family Event Center and our role here for the community and Cathedral Prep. But as I mentioned, Mark is the Executive Director for the Erie Sports Commission, which we was named into that role in July of 2018. And that was after previously serving as the organization's first events director since June of 2013. And since being elevated to that leadership role, Mark has guided the organization to the top 3 performing years in its 10-year history, while also navigating through the challenges of the pandemic, of course, as well during his stint. During those first 4 full years under his direction, the Erie Sports Commission hosted and supported a total of 270 events, generating an estimated economic impact of $74.8 million, which is just outstanding to you and your team over there. As the organization's first events director, Mark quickly made his mark in the sports tourism industry, increasing the number of sports commissions hosted and supported events from 19 in 2013 to 59 in 2017. Mark's work was critical to Erie's selection as host for several high-profile events, including the 2018 Icebreaker Tournament presented by LECOM, the 2021 NCAA Women's Frozen Four, at which he also served as the co-chair of the local organizations committee, and many other world, national, and state-level championship events, many of which have even been hosted here with us at the Haggerty Family Event Center. Mark earned his CSEE designation in 2017 and has maintained STS designations ever since. He has also been an active member of the PA Sports Executive Committee, having served 4 years as treasurer and is entering into his second 2-year term as chair. So very cool stuff, Mark. Welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here, Jimmy. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty neat. I first started working for the Haggerty Family Event Center in 2017. So, sometime shortly after that, I got to meet you and hear about the great work you and your team have been doing, for the city of Erie, and, all the different things you guys bring in through different events, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a interesting industry. Much like what you do, every day is different. You're dealing with a lot of different personalities, a lot of different individuals in sports, and I think that's probably what is most enjoyable about the position, is the diversity of what happens day to day. You walk in on a Monday expecting to do one thing, and the next thing you know, you're talking to somebody about some footbag competition that they want to bring to town. So it's a great industry to be involved in, and we've been very fortunate to have a lot of success.
Yeah, I would say so. It's pretty neat. I born and raised here in Erie. I'm a big advocate for Erie. It's great to see, the work happening in downtown, but also hear about, an organization like yourself. When I first came to learn of it, the stuff you guys are doing to bring that economic impact, and we'll get into some of that in a little bit here too. But no, it's just really exciting stuff, and it's great to see because Erie is such a gem here, and a lot, I'm sure, of the different groups you host from around the country to host tournaments here probably feel the same way as they go through the city. But can you tell me how you even first got involved with the Erie Sports Commission, and what was it, 2013 is when?
It was, yeah. A little bit of a winding tale. Prep alum Ron Sertz. I worked for Ron and with Ron for years with the Erie Otters. We created a great friendship. I looked upon him as a mentor of mine. Our careers went in different directions. I ended up going to Maine to work in the American Hockey League for a few years, and he went off and worked with the basketball team, the Bayhawks, for a while. And then he got this, not this idea, because it's not like it was unique to Erie, but hey, we should have a sports commission in Erie. And he did a 2-year study that was funded by the Convention Center Authority and Visit Erie to talk about the benefits of developing a sports commission. And when that was happening, he had reached out to me. Obviously, we kept in contact and said, hey, if you ever want to come back to Erie, I might have this opportunity here. And I thought, yeah, that's interesting, having no idea what sports tourism was, despite the fact that I think I was working in sports tourism a lot of the time in my career leading up to this. And, in the fall of 2012, the Visit Erie was working to get an increase on the hotel tax from 5% to 7% to increase Visit Erie's funding. That was approved in January of 2013. And at that point, that led to the creation of the Sports Commission, and I arrived in May of 2013. And like I mentioned earlier, just excited to have discovered this second or third career in my life, and the diversity and the fun that it has delivered.
Now, is there any hesitation among you when you first, learned about this to even say, I don't know if I'm the best person for this type of role here in Erie for what you guys are asking for? Were you pretty confident and excited to step into this position?
Well, it is a sales position, and I don't ever consider myself a salesman.
Yeah.
Because, we're out selling Erie. That's our job, is to prove to event organizers that Erie is the best place to bring their event. And I still don't really think of myself as a salesperson. And when I came here in 2013, I was ready for a change, a new challenge. It wasn't really presented to me as a sales position. Ron is a great marketer and a great salesman himself, and so he knew not to use the word sales around me. But it's a different kind of sales. We're not cold calling anybody. We're finding people that have mutual interest and then trying to work things through. So in answer to your question, there was really no hesitation. As I said earlier, I'd sort of been on the outside of sports tourism. When I worked in the American Hockey League in Portland, I was responsible for the team's travel. So I was talking with hotels and arranging food and doing flights and buses, and in its essence, that's sports tourism. Now, that's a very general description. What our goal here is not to bring in the London Knights to play the Erie Otters. That's happening with or without us. Our goal here is to try to find that event that's going to bring hundreds of people to town that wouldn't normally come here.
Right.
Introduce them to the city, and hopefully they enjoy their time here, and hopefully that event continues to happen here. But if it doesn't, hopefully those people like what they see here enough to come back again.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's funny you mentioned that about the salesman tag. I often thought about, my role with the event center particularly as, similar to you. I don't identify myself as a salesman of the event center, but to your point, when people are coming and visiting different facilities that they want to see to host a tournament or an event, I am in essence, selling the event center as to why we could be a good place for them. Although I don't try to label myself and see that as a sales thing, but it's similar to what you're saying. Yeah. And no, it's great because there's been many meetings where you guys have brought some different event coordinators into our facility to see the event center as a potential host site in them coming to Erie. And it's great to be able to support the work you guys are doing, because I believe in what you're talking about, bringing in people from around the country, hundreds of people being able to brought in to see Erie and hopefully continue to come year after year then after they have that experience. So that basically, that was one of the questions I had for you, is when the Sports Commission was founded. And for those people listening to the podcast here that maybe aren't as familiar with the Erie Sports Commission, can you share with us what is the purpose of the organization? We kind of alluded to that a little bit, but just so everybody can know what your role is for the Erie community.
Well, our role is based predominantly upon tourism. We are a division of Visit Erie, which is the local Convention and Visitors Bureau. Their role, Visit Erie's role, is to drive leisure travel to town. So they're developing marketing campaigns and advertising to Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Columbus, Harrisburg, promoting the fact that we have great things here. So we're more laser focused on sports, and our role is to do the same, but we're not promoting to Buffalo. We're promoting to the guy that does a basketball tournament in Buffalo to bring that basketball tournament here to Erie. So, we are drivers of tourism through sport and competition. The great thing about our operations, we don't cost the locals anything. Our operations are totally funded by a percentage of the hotel tax. So, I understand that there are some locals that might stay in a hotel locally, but generally speaking, all the visitors are paying our operation, funding our operation. We do not charge event organizers anything to provide our services, and we're more of a matchmaker. The local people that do tournaments in town, they already have those relationships, but we're trying to find those regional, state, or national tournament organizers that like what they see, find a venue that's a good match for their event, and then decide to come here, and then we're the ones that are saying, okay, what do you need, and how can we help you make this an event a success? So we always use porta potties as you're doing a fun run, you need porta potties, here's the porta potty, or here's the porta potty companies that you want to connect with, and we've created relationships with them. We also have some grant funding. The industry has changed dramatically in the 10 years that I've been involved. We never paid a rights fee to anybody in the first couple years. And now the event organizers, because the competition nationally has changed so much, and there are so many other communities that have sports commissions, a lot of places are buying events. So when it's us against Harrisburg, for example, or Hershey-Harrisburg, and everything's equal, at the end of the day, what might not be equal is Hershey-Harrisburg's willing to give somebody $10,000 to bring their event to town. We don't have the budget to do that, so we rely on relationships in that situation. But that's sort of the Reader's Digest version of what we do, and our end result is ultimately is estimated economic impact, and that's what we live and die on. Is we use a calculator to come up with that number on every single event that we do. And then at the end of the year, we look and say, hey, we're usually between 17 and 20 million in economic impact, which I'm really proud of, because there's only 3 of us in our office. So, there's 3 of us that are generating close to $20 million in economic impact annually. Yeah,
that's awesome. And that's that right there shows that the work you're doing is working, right, in terms of the Erie Sports Commission and that idea that was created, 10, 12 years ago about what this could be. For some of us that aren't as savvy, economic impact, some of those big words, what does that mean in terms of how does the Erie Sports Commission impact our economic development in Erie County? What is it that by you bringing in these tournaments, how does that benefit Erie?
I don't know that we our operations necessarily lead to directly to economic development, but it's mostly in support of our hospitality industry. Erie is a tourist town. There's a lot of people that do not want to accept that, but you're drawing 3 million people a year just to Presque Isle, which is more than Yellowstone National Park. I mean, So, we are a tourist town, and our operations are to support the hotels. The events that we work with predominantly have to have a hotel component to them.
Yeah.
There are a couple small ones that are beneficial to local charities that we work with that we don't, make them have a hotel component. But probably 98% of our events have to have a room block at a hotel or work with a housing agency that's going to provide rooms for visitors. It's sometimes hard to wrap your head around what we do because you don't really see what we do. But when you go to most of the hoteliers in town, they look at us and go, you're one of our top customers because we're driving tens of thousands of hotel room nights, which obviously supports the hospitality industry. And even tougher to track are the restaurants and the local attractions, the zoo, Waldemere, Splash Lagoon. They all drive themselves and do their own marketing. We just supplement what they're doing because we're bringing more people into town and exposing more people to the great things that are available here in Erie.
Yeah, and it's like I think you said, with how you work with Visit Erie, I'm sure the Visit Erie can capitalize on marketing to those people coming, talking about all the things that they can do in Erie while they're here. And I'd imagine, families are looking to spend, a little vacation, when they're doing these tournaments and whatnot, so they can, like you said, the hotels, zoo, all these different places that they're going to be spending money that it's hard for you to measure, but to your point, you have a little way to calculate what you anticipate that benefit is.
Yeah, and I think, Jimmy, we're very fortunate from the sports side of things because everything we do is trackable.
Yeah.
Because if we're doing a basketball team, we know how many teams are in the tournament.
Yeah.
And we generally know how many players are in each team. We can tell if they're out of town. We obviously look and say, in most cases, if you're coming from 100 miles or more away, you're probably staying one night. You're not driving back and forth. You're not playing Friday, driving home Friday night, coming back Saturday. Some cases that'll happen depending on what the situation is. But everything we do is trackable. So at the end of every weekend, when we have 2 or 3 events that happen, we can look at it and say, okay, this is how many teams we had here. This is how many athletes we had here. This is how many hotel room nights that should have been generated through that. And there's lots of variables. I mean, if you stay in an Airbnb, we're not getting a hotel tax from that. But, whereas, and this is it's not putting down Visit Erie, but Visit Erie does leisure travel. And if they take an ad in Columbus, it's extremely difficult to figure out how many people saw that ad to come here. So we're really lucky to be able to just look at those numbers and say, we're pretty confident in these numbers. We're always very conservative. Yeah. We always take the low end of everything. But, it's the value of what we do. It just makes it so much easier. And we do use a nationally accepted economic impact calculator, which doesn't need a whole lot of information to come up with a pretty accurate number of what the impact is.
And when you're talking to these event organizers, if they're traveling to Erie to meet with us, to see if this is where they want to come, I would imagine they're going to other cities as well, and evaluating where's going to be the best spot for them to host their events. As you've had these conversations with people, what are you hearing from them as to why they're choosing Erie to come to host their events?
Number one across the board, Jimmy, is venues. You can't do events if you don't have venues. Venues and availability. So, those are the things. It's, you mentioned bringing event organizers to town. That is the number one best way to get an event to come here. Because generally speaking, and it's much better now from the first time in 10 years ago or 11 years ago when I started going to conferences and meeting with event organizers and people looking at us like, where's Erie? I've never heard of Erie. To now, they recognize, at least they recognize Erie Sports Commission, but to get somebody to come here and give us the opportunity to show them around. We did the National Strongman Championships 2 years in a row, the last 2 Octobers, and the owner of that event came to town. It's called a site visit. We flew her in, we showed her around. After the first night, we're having dinner, and the first thing she said to myself and Ben Hugler, who's our event services director, was, boy, you undersold this place. And, and that's what we try to do. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. And she got to see Erie. We took her everywhere we thought was important. Even took her out to the peninsula, understanding that probably not a lot of their participants were going to end up out there.
Yeah.
But we wanted to give her the full view. And, because of that, they ran a successful event in 2022. And for the first time ever in that organization's history, they came back to the same city for a second year. The venue at the convention center was fantastic. The hotels down there are extremely convenient if you're doing an event in there. But getting an event organizer here is number one, and then having the opportunity to show them the venues like this one, and the quality of those venues are paramount to any kind of success that we have.
Yeah, it's easy for us to live here in Erie to see the pros, see the negatives, and maybe sometimes dwell a little bit more on the negatives when you live a place like this. But to hear that outside perspective when people come to visit and look at it from their lens in terms of, like, to your point, being able to, her feeling like you guys undersold Erie and all the aspects of different components as to why they would want to come here. And obviously for her to choose to be here 2 years in a row is proof right there that, Erie is a great place, and it's a great place for us to live, but it's also a great place for these tournaments and events to come to our town and experience that. And, you were mentioning, even, venues like ours, and, we'll kind of switch hats a little bit to talk more specifically about the Haggerty Family Event Center here. And I started working for Prep in 2017 as starting to oversee the events happening at the event center, and becoming the manager here for a few years. And I've always just appreciated how many. We're, of course, a home athletic facility for Cathedral Prep sports. Everything that we can host here, we do. We, of course, have always hosted a lot of the Erie Catholic grade schools, games, events. But beyond that, we're busy all the time with outside groups coming in and using our facilities and coming in here. But
which is not good for us. But
I know a lot of times we're juggling dates with you guys, and it's usually a year in advance. We're looking at the calendar to see if we can get somebody in. But what aspects for you guys when you're looking at venues, and specifically here with the Haggerty Family Event Center, make it appealing for you to want to bring a potential tournament host or event coordinator here to see the Haggerty Family Event Center?
Well, first it has to be a fit, right? You have to figure out what the event organizer is looking for, and in a facility like yours, it's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward, and then I hate to repeat myself, but it's quality. This is a quality venue. I believe this venue is a catalyst to encourage our universities to step up their game a little bit. I think it was part of that. I realized that the athlete expectation is changing, and they are competing with schools everywhere on what their amenities are to service their athletes. But that number one is to be confident to come into a facility and know that it's a good facility. We have a great relationship with you guys. To understand that there's date availability, which is a challenge. It's a challenge in all our venues. We're doing in 2023. We'll set another organizational record of 84 events hosted.
Wow! Congratulations.
Or supported. It's been fantastic, and Ben Hugler, our event service director, deserves all the credit for that. But we need to make sure that we can get into the venue and it to be available to how the event organizer has envisioned that and what they've experienced in other locations, and maybe a little bit more. I mean, we've worked with you before where digital signage just to put a welcome up. You have no idea how that changes the perception of an event organizer coming in, because when they see that, immediately they feel welcome. They feel like that we want to work together and create a partnership. And we talk a lot about forming relationships. And that's the first step, getting them into a venue. We can take pictures all we want. Yeah. Having them walk through the door and getting to see what exactly they're getting into is the driving force to get things done. And I think, Jimmy, cooperation with other venues. I mean, we've worked and done the College Club National Basketball Championship, but we don't just work here at Haggerty. We're working with Gannon and Mercyhurst too. We've got hotel partners that have stepped up and tried to make this event a good event.
Yeah.
And it flies under the radar, but you have Purdue in here, you got you have USC in here, you have Las Vegas coming. These are we're not talking about their varsity teams, we're talking about some pretty good basketball that's being played here.
Yeah.
And we're really proud of the opportunity to host something like that here and to bring in other partners to make it better for the event organizer. And College Club Sports is based out of Pittsburgh. They've been up here a number of times. We have a great relationship with them.
Yeah.
And you guys have helped foster that relationship even further.
Yeah, well, to your point, with you were mentioning like the welcome, images and stuff like that. We always want to be that place that's a first-class facility. We're very proud of the facility we have. We want to share that with the community. But we also want to make sure when people come in here, we know there's a certain expectation on the image it reflects for Cathedral Prep as well. Most people might never walk through the halls of Cathedral Prep if they're not a student or have been a student before. But coming to the event center, you might be a parent, grandparent, cousin, family member that's coming to watch your family member play youth sports, basketball, wrestling, swimming. And this is going to be the impression you get of Cathedral Prep by coming through our facility. So we always do our best to really put our best foot forward and make sure that we're a great reflection of the school and what we're doing here for the community as well.
Specifically here, we never tell an event organizer that this is a high school facility until they get here.
Yeah, you're right. There's a certain stereotype, I'm sure, of what that means.
Yeah, I mean, we're confident that we could do NCAA events in this building.
Yeah.
But the NCAA is thinking, how could we, and I'm putting my thoughts into it, but an NCAA person would immediately, without stepping foot in here, immediately say, I don't know that we can do an NCAA regional or championship in a high school facility. Well, this isn't a high school facility.
Correct.
This is way better than a high school facility. So we purposefully call it the Haggerty Family Event Center and don't go down, we don't connect dots.
Yeah.
I think event organizers are smart enough that they do their research and realize that there's a connection. But until we get them through the door or their name on a piece of paper, we don't align it with high school because I think there's just a connotation there that people just expect it to be substandard, and this is clearly not substandard.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I would definitely agree with you there. And it is fun, getting people to walk through for the first time, or even when we have teams, high school teams from out of town coming to play prep, and the kids are like, wait, is this a high school? They're like, right. No way, we're playing. This is your home gym. You guys are so lucky. And, you're right. The kids at prep, I'm sure, don't really appreciate truly what we have here because this is just what they're accustomed to. And most of those kids, honestly, have been playing at this facility as grade school kids and then now at prep. But, it's the job of our coaches and our staff to really remind these kids how fortunate we really are and being blessed by the donors who made this place possible to be what it is. And one of the things that I was going to ask you about too is, we talked about, you jokingly were saying, availability here, with being able to bring in outside groups, let alone local organizations. But, when I see the event center, I truly do see it as a community resource. We do host so many different outside groups and organizations outside of our own with the prep sports. But what would you say is the impact to the community that we at Prep have by providing, the opportunity for groups and organizations to come in and utilize a facility like this?
Well, I think it's great for the community, and obviously we've talked about the quality of this venue. I can't help but believe that it wouldn't encourage a young athlete to continue to pursue athletics because they get to come and play in a good place. And we're, as a country, I'm not sure we're in a crossroads, but all the studies are indicating that kids aren't playing sports anymore. They're getting to a certain point where if they're not good enough to play travel, they leave sports. And that's a terrible thing for our industry. I think it's a terrible thing. I'm a sports guy, played sports my whole life. I think sports provides some valuable lessons to a lot of the youth in our country, and there's certainly a segment of that youth that doesn't want to play sports, and that's okay, but they shouldn't be eliminated from sports just because they may not be good enough to play travel.
Right.
And, having an opportunity to come in here and see how nice this is and not have to dread. I grew up in Canada. I played hockey my whole life. There are arenas that I did not want to go into as a kid. They were cold. It was early. Having a facility like this eliminates that sort of, all right, we're going to a dump to go play. Like, I love playing hockey, but at 5 o'clock in the morning, going to an arena with no heat and trying to get ready was not a lot of fun. So I hope that's something that our community and our young people would embrace, is the fact that this is a great facility. The other high schools have started to develop some venues that are going to be on par. The influx of artificial turf at a bunch of the other high schools in the county is beneficial, I think, to everybody.
Yeah.
So I just hope that in a little bit that venues like this and the improvements that other schools have been making will encourage more kids to stick around and play sports.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. To be able to encourage young athletes to stick with their sports and continue on and push through. It's not a bad thing to have some resistance when you're doing something to see what you're really made of, in a sense. Sometimes when you learn the most about yourself is when you face a conflict of some sort. So, meaning if there is a kid who wants to go on and pursue playing, take it football, but they're not good enough, they think, to really make it to the next level, stick with it. See what you got. Really challenge yourself and just have the fortitude to stick with something. And we would hope that providing facilities like this does encourage kids to want to come to a place that is welcoming, where our staff is greeting them. We're happy to help. Particularly our prep coaches, I know, always do their best to really take care of our kids. And, and I see it with the other club teams and sports that are hosted here as well. All the coaches, they just care about the kids. And it's the biggest thing that we can do for our youth is getting them in, different activities and groups like that. But no, a couple other questions here as we wind down on the podcast. Particularly with the event center, what has been some of the feedback that you've received from previous people that have hosted with us in regards to their experience either working with our staff here at the event center or using the facilities? What has been some of the things that they've told you about the event center that they enjoyed or hopefully enjoyed, not disliked being here with us?
Yeah, I think we've never had any negative feedback. I think the fact that this is run like a professional operation or as a professional operation goes a long way with event organizers, because they come in here and they want the distractions to be minimal. They want to come in and run their event and run it as best they can, because they're trying to serve their customers. So it's sort of a trickle-down effect that you're serving the event organizer as the event organizer's tenant, and the event organizer is trying to do things for the tournament and the athletes. But I'm happy to say that the events that we've done here, we have not received any kind of negative feedback, and quite the contrary. It's always very positive. We talked to a college club basketball.
Yeah.
Those kids fly from Las Vegas to come and play a tournament here. They're obviously passionate about being at the club level and being the best club level team in the country.
Absolutely.
I'd like to think, and we've never heard differently, that they come here and enjoy their entire experience. And a big part of that, they're here to play games.
Right.
At the end of the day, they don't care that Presque Isle is right over there.
Right.
They're coming here to play the games, and an integral part of their experience is the venue that they get to participate in.
Yeah.
And that's it. It says a lot that this venue is an upper tier venue that we can bring these people in with ultimate confidence that they're going to have a good experience here.
Yeah. Absolutely, and this episode of the podcast is coming out here in January, and that will be the first month that we're starting to host the Gannon basketball teams at our event center, because with the Highmark Event Center for Gannon, the old Hammer Mill being under renovation for the whole basically 2024 calendar year, we're going to be the host site for Gannon men's and women's basketball teams. in the fall time. Come back to the volleyball team will be hosted here. And then as well, the start of the basketball season for 2024, 2025 season for Gannon men's and women's basketball will be hosted here as well. So, it's to your point, the opportunity that this isn't just a high school facility. It's really a university level type of quality facility to be able to host, different groups and organizations like College Club Sports and all these different ones that come here. All the way down to last March, we hosted the YMCA Youth Basketball Tournament or Championship Games, and they had the little extender on the hoop so it could go from 10 feet to 8 feet for them. And it's just fun. It's great to see little kids out there playing basketball on the same court that we're going to be having Gannon University hosting all their games too. So, we really are proud of the facility and couldn't say more to really thank you and your team, not just what you're doing for the Event Center, but the whole Erie community. It's really a great testament to the work you guys are doing, and appreciate all that you guys are doing for the community.
Thanks, Jimmy. That's you know what the relationship we have here.
Yeah.
We'll keep knocking on your door, despite the fact that we know availability is going to get even tougher when Gannon gets here. But it's all good stuff, and it's another great example of a great partnership to help things continue to move forward.
And as we're closing, for people who are interested in learning more about the Erie Sports Commission, where can they find you guys? I'm assuming, website, but social media, can you direct them on where they could learn more about your organization?
Yeah, eriesportscommission.com is the website. We're also somewhat active on Instagram and Facebook. It's sort of an interesting dynamic, Jimmy. For the longest time, we're better known nationally than we were locally. I think we've changed that a little bit, but we're still working on trying to make sure that people locally know that we exist, and that if somebody is passionate about a sport and wants to do an event, we're there to talk to them and try to help them get to the finish line.
Absolutely. Good stuff, Mark. Well, thanks again for coming on the podcast. It's been a lot of fun to learn more about you guys in the commission, talk about the Event Center. Appreciate the kind words you've had for us and the relationship that we have. Best of luck for 2024. Hopefully another record-breaking year for you guys.
Here's hoping. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks again, Mark.